Alright, welcome back. I don't really have an opening statement today. I am working on a simple walk for practice, because I need it. I already went ahead and did this, I guess it's technically a passing position. I think that's what they call it technically. I'm just calling it the down, and then the up, and then the down, and the up. And I'm gonna start filling in the in-betweens. Well, not the extremes. I'll get the terminology right one of these days. So this is just, you can see the walk, it works. And this is how I'm kind of like starting to do it, because if I try to do it any other way, something doesn't work out quite right. And this isn't how I do a cycle, but I specifically did it this way because I want to practice like going across the screen. I can do cycles pretty okay, but I want to practice like actually making a character move. Anyways, let's see. So this is kind of what it looks like when it plays through at 24. And then all this empty space in here, I'm gonna add movement. So I think, yeah, that'll work. We'll try that. Unfortunately, I don't have anything exciting to say at the moment. Just kind of see what not Alright, I'm gonna try something and see if it works or not. Hello, DZ. It is good to see you. I honestly, like, I don't have much to talk about today. I'm really trying to get better at animation, and that's about it. So, yeah, I'm gonna add the mid frame here. Most of what I say this stream might just sound like complete nonsense. So I have the character doing this kind of bounce walk. And I'm almost thinking like, I can't think of the character, but I've seen like probably like the Soup Balls or something, kind of move this way, somewhat, not exactly, but somewhat, kind of inspired, I guess, is the word. And I almost would like to have between these two frames, it kind of tilt out of frame, like this way. That might be a little bit out of my skill range for today, though. But I'm gonna give it a shot. You know that? I'm gonna give it a shot. Let's see. I feel like it'd be... The volume's got to be a little bit smaller, so it looks like it's going out of frame a little. And that's why I'm using this very simple ball shape, because otherwise I feel like it'd be too much for me at the moment. Because I have this dilemma where I can draw, but I can't make things... Like, I can't make those drawings move yet. And then I have a friend who can make things move, but he can't draw really great yet. So I feel like it's kind of funny comparing with him, but it's definitely motivating because I'm sitting there going like, and the thing is, I wouldn't say he can't draw. Like he says he can't draw, but I think he can draw. I just think it's, it takes time. But I like his drawings. I think he dislikes them more than. Well, let's see. How does that work? But anyways, but yeah, it's just kind of a funny. No, that does not do what I was. Nah. I mean, it kind of does. I guess. Huh. But yeah, I'm basically trying to focus on movement, not so much drawing. The one thing with drawing I'm trying to practice is volumes, because I kind of noticed I was trying to animate something earlier this week, and I noticed that everything kept going out of shape. So sometimes it's just my placement of the frame. So maybe if I go here, do this, and then do that. I know that I heard someone, an animator I like, they were like, don't rely on the onion skinning layer, but I'm like, okay, but how am I supposed to follow the arcs when I'm a noob? So, let's see. Let's put one guy. So it's like very simple drawings, but I want to get some smooth movement going, you know? Maybe it's in the legs itself, I wonder. I don't think that leg's right. Okay, I kind of like that. Kind of do want to get to a point where I can make it like tilt back and forth though, but that might be for a later experience time. I'm only like level like 22. I gotta get up to level like 26 before I can animate that side to side. Is that leg off? Let's see. Nope. Almost. I might be obsessing a little too much. Okay. Okay, we got this. We got this. gonna go with that. Okay. Because things don't have to exactly match up on the size all the time, because then squash and stretch wouldn't be possible. Something about legs, though, I'm not good at them, and so making them move is an additional challenge for me. So I think that's what's going on. That's also why I'm dealing with very simple shapes here today. I kind of think that's pretty smooth. And I'm switching it from 2s to 1s. Is there a way I could put a frame here? Oh yeah, I totally could. We're not doing this on 2s, we're gonna do this on 1s. Heck yes. Of course, this is pose to pose, as opposed to straight ahead. I'm really starting to understand why animators are a little bit nuts. This is a little bit crazy. Like, you watch cartoons and you're like, oh, I love that, I want to do that, and then you actually like sit down and do that and you're like, I think most people quit, but I've never been good at quitting, which is also why I've never like tried smoking or anything, because I feel like I'd be doomed. I'd absolutely be doomed. 100%. It's bad enough trying to reduce my Coca-Cola intake, which I have done. I'm down to 1 12-ounce a day. Okay, wait. Yeah, that doesn't look right. That's definitely not right. Oh, that's why. Okay, now I'm getting why they say don't rely on the onion skin too much. You get a little lost. Got it. Animation is painfully screwing up over and over again until you get it right. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the easily discouraged. Luckily for me, I'm neither of those things. Okay, so I gotta see the frame ahead. Oh, that's interesting. And the volume kind of changes a little bit too much there, doesn't it? Let's take a look. The previous frame only. The problem is too, to volume check, I have to look backwards. Some people might be like, you're drawing digitally, just copy the circle over and over again. And I'm like, you know what? No, because that doesn't teach me anything, does it? Not doing that today. This is learning. If I'm ever animating on paper one day, I don't want to be like, oh, well, I can't do that because I need to be able to drag and drop. I think, will that work? Because it's like almost the perfect volume. But it's in the wrong place. Okay, cool. Cool. Try this again. think I'm starting to get it. Probably not the most exciting stream, but whatever. Alright, pretty good. There we go. Let's see, and then we're going into the down. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do this time. Now that I kind of think I know what I'm doing. Possibly. And if I screw up, I'll just learn from it and move on. I kind of hate that the onion skin does that in Flash. Okay, there we go. I really gotta get TV paint. I tried the demo, it's magical. Okay. This is probably not gonna work, but I'm giving it a shot. Let's do it. Let's draw circles badly. Well, maybe it will work. Did my plan actually get out? Did my plan actually work? How'd I figure that out? No, that can't be right. Leg's gonna be coming out. Take. Might want to work backwards on this one. Forward. I don't like that. Okay. Almost. There we go. Okay. Just break the leg there. I think this is about the point where the knee starts bending. 'Cause that foot's got to come back. I don't know if that'll work. I think so. Alright, now I think we're getting somewhere. Get out of my way. Yeah, it's a pretty smooth leg move right there. Yeah, there we go. Think I'm starting to get this. One of these days I'll be able to animate a complex character, not just a little circle. I could draw a complex character, but I can't make it move. It's so frustrating. Ugh. All right. Let's do it again. Actually, I don't think I want to do all the individual keyframes like I did last time with the circle, because that did get a little confusing to look at. So, we're just going to go straight ahead this time. Oh, thank you, DZ. I was a little worried it's more of a Snoresville stream. Because, like, I have to keep practicing, and I know, this isn't nearly as exciting as me drawing, like, Cat Noir or, like, Star Versus stuff, but unfortunately, like, this is where you gotta start, and I'm just realizing that. Because, I mean, it's good that I know how to draw, but if I can't make that drawing stay consistent and move, then I just got pretty still frames, and I'm like, I want to make it move. And the weird thing about, like, animation and movement is that sometimes you think you have to draw more, but sometimes you have to draw less. Like, it's very confusing. So what I've noticed in earlier attempts to animate is that I'm so worried about everything that I draw, like, everything, and then it ends up, like, really, like, floaty, and so I'm like, I just gotta sit down, and if I can get walks, like, walks are everything. Because if you can, like, what I really would like to be able to do is just sit down and be like, I want to make the character, like, stroll in like a cool guy, you know what I mean? Or I want to make the, like, guy, like, kind of stumble as he walks in. When I get to that point, then I'm golden, and whatever happens, to me, that's, like, if I can animate that, then I sure as heck will be able to animate anything else I want to be able to animate. Because it's very tempting to just jump straight into, like, I want to do, like, flying scenes, but, like, I don't understand frame rate quite yet, like, inherently. And I realize, like, I watch all these old Disney animators animate, and they're just, like, they've done it so many times that they're just like, oh, yes, and I did that drawing, and that'll hold, like, 6 frames, and then I'll do this drawing, and I'm like, but how do you know that? and the simple answer is they've just been doing it for years. And that's the thing too. You say you don't have much to talk about. I don't have much to talk about either, because everything I want to do right now is just getting into the grind, just doing it. I just have to animate, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to make my good, solid drawing into movement, is if I practice, because that's basically what I'm missing. I spent 10, 15-ish years just drawing, thinking, like, I'll just get really good at drawing, and then one day I'll be able to make it move, but I kind of missed that, like, fundamental, like, dumb kid in math class flipbook stage, because, like, I could go back into high school and just, like, kick myself, because I was like, I'm too good for flip books. Like, flip books aren't real animation. That's not what I want to do. And it wasn't because I was like, it's because I didn't know. I had no idea that essentially it's exactly the same thing as TV animation or feature animation. It's like flip books are like the foundation. And I didn't want to do that because I think I was a teenager and I wanted to show off. And I didn't think it was really all that impressive to be like, hey guys, check out my flip book. I wanted to be like, hey guys, check out my YouTube video when you get home on your computer because we don't have smartphones yet. But yeah, flip books are essentially the same thing, and like I just never did them. Like I never like doodle. Like I very occasion. I think I did a couple like bouncing ball ones, but like I think I did two, so that's not very helpful. Um, and it's just I was in a place where nobody'd really heard of animation, so I didn't have any ideas on how it really worked. I had to piece everything together by myself. It's kind of depressing, but I mean, so like I won't short myself for that reason alone. I'm like, I had nothing to work with. I had pretty much like I had people who were like, you should go and be a cartoonist, but I didn't have people telling me how. They're just like, just, I mean, you figure it out, but you do you, man. And I'm like, okay, that's not helpful. And, 2007 to 2010 was a very interesting time frame to be in high school because it was just that right time where smartphones existed, but only like rich parents had them, and there was only the iPhone at that point, I believe. So they existed, but they were out of reach, and to be fair, they kind of sucked. And the other thing was like Google was still pretty newish, where you could look up a lot of things on it, but like I remember I did try to look up like animation on Wikipedia, I think it was, when I was in high school. But the other problem too is like without proper guidance, I kind of didn't take it seriously because I remember like back then, I don't know if it's changed, but the Wikipedia article on animation was basically like it had a red bouncing ball gif, and it was just like animation is just a sequence of images played over, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but how do I make Danny Phantom? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't have anyone to sit there and be like, sit down, draw the stupid bouncing ball over and over again till you hate circles. The sight of circles makes you angry. And then one day you'll be like, you know what, screw this, you'll draw Danny Phantom flying through the air and you'll be like, oh, I got it right. And that's how you become an animator, is you want to draw something cool, but you don't know how, so then you just kind of get irritated, so you just keep practicing, and you're like, I'm never going to get this right, and you play video games for a month, and then you sit there and go like, what am I doing with my life? I want to be an animator, and all I'm doing is sitting here playing video games. And so you get up off your butt and you draw, but you're still like, this is hard, and it's basically just like pain. I think that's what I'm describing, is just pain. That's what it is. I think that's why not a lot of people actually, like, I think a lot of kids definitely were like, I want to be an animator, and I'm also realizing how stupid of a statement that is. Like you're basically at a young age saying, you know what, I don't want to have a steady income, and I want to be underpaid and overworked. But I want to make cartoons, because, yeah, it's like, I'm not very positive about the animation industry, if that's not apparent. Mostly because I have done a lot of, like, looking into stuff, and, like, honestly, being an animator, I mean, I'm not gonna say anyone can't, but it's like I don't I don't even know exactly how to say this. It's like you gotta be you either have to have like a really good family that's gonna like pay for you during those years where you're broke, or you just have to be like insane and like be willing to go through a lot of stuff just to get there. And like I'll never tell anyone they can't do it, but I kind of came to the realization that I just really hate I hate the way the tier system in Hollywood works. I don't like that at all. I'm not a big fan. There's a lot of, not to mention, there's like a whole lot of corruption and stuff going on in the whole Hollywood animation scene that doesn't make me particularly feel good about things. Oh. Definitely think I'm doing something weird on those legs, but let's see if it works. I mean, why not? Let's see how that looks. Let's let it hold a little bit. I can't see what's going on there. Actually, I kind of like it. It looks a little mechanical, but I kind of like it. But yeah, the animation industry in Hollywood in particular, like, it kind of sucks. First of all, I mean, there's the Me Too thing that's been going on. And sorry I keep stretching my arms, but they're like falling asleep. There's positives about it, I want to say, but you know, like there's or like in the animation industry specifically, but like yeah, like there's the whole Me Too thing where you know, like I'm sitting there and like I'm a girl, I want to be an animator, and I'm like, do I really want to go to this? Like the thing is, too, people are like, why are there so many creepers in animation? And I kind of sat there and like, well, just look at their lifestyle. Like basically, most of them spend, like it's not really like when I was in high school thinking about being an animator, I thought it would be like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And I'd go in and I'd be part of like a Pixar movie or I'd work on a Cartoon Network show, 9 to 5, go home, eat dinner, you know, like, and I thought, you know, like, oh, I could do my own cartoons on the side and maybe one day I can like pitch like Scotty as a show to Cartoon Network. I'll have my own show one day. You know, like I kind of had those thoughts, but part of the problem was too like I didn't have if I didn't have the ability to find out how to animate, I sure as heck did not have the ability to find out what working in the industry really is like. But it's not a 9 to 5. It's like it's almost like more like 7 to like 6. You know, it's like you're gonna be there a lot. There's like times where it's kind of chill, but then there's like crunch times where you're like really pushing it out. And then the other thing is it's like you're constantly drawing, and I mean that's not a problem for me, but like, well, even I take like the weekends off specifically. Like I kind of like force myself not to draw on the weekends because I have a very bad habit of being like a workaholic, and then like if you don't rest, you don't get new ideas, and it kind of stinks, you know. And like also like my wrist, my arm needs a rest, and you're working these insane hours, and I mean, like most people in the animation industry like have like marital issues, family issues because of their work hours. And then, like, you have that going on where, like, you're isolated at your desk, you're drawing all the time. You're like, the only people you see are the people you work with. And, like, to me, I'm, like, sitting there going, like, that's really an environment that's just unhealthy in the first place. But then the other part is, like, that really does breed, like, I've grown up with dudes my whole life, so I'm kind of, like, sitting there going, like, you got a bunch of dudes who are stuck at a computer all day in a public place, and it's like hours and hours of work, and they don't get to like go home and just be with their family, like to have like bonding time basically, and then they're basically just holed up in this building making cartoons. It's like, gee, I wonder why a lot of them go crazy. And so I know some people would probably criticize that analysis, but I'm not saying that, just because you're in that kind of environment, it's going to turn you into a monstrous person. But I can't think that if you put a monstrous person in those conditions, that's going to be good for them. If anything, it's just going to push it out worse. So, there's just like, the sad fact too is they don't get paid a lot. Like, even if the problem is most of it's all in California, so even if you're at like Disney or something and you're getting paid a pretty good salary, like you're living in Los Angeles, which has some of the most pricey housing you could get. And that's if you're lucky enough to be at one of the studios that's like continuously paying you. And then it's also assuming, too, that you haven't racked up tons of student loan debt learning animation at, like, I don't know, Cal Arts. Because, like, yeah, I think the tuition's up to, like, $150,000 or something like that. Like, once you start looking into it, the whole thing's a mess. And I'm not saying, like, don't do it. I definitely would never say that. But, like, I have come to a realization that I just, I'd love to be a part of, like, a bigger project sometimes, but there's just, like, I don't like California. I don't like it. One thing I've heard, too, is they're like, oh, just go work out there, work on, like, one project for, like, 3 years, as if, like, that's just kind of like a throwaway thing. Like, just take 3 years of your life and go out there. And I'm like, all right, buddy, sure. That's only, like, I always think of things in terms of high school, which might seem weird. Like, not, like, in my mindset of high school, but high school is 4 years. And I think of, like, freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior, and, like, how much crap I went through in that. Like, the first year, like, I did all of this stuff, and the second year I did all this stuff, and, like, like, I just remember, like, how each year was, like, important. And so now I just kind of group things in, like, numbers of 4, because I remember, like, I was working at a job I hated. I'd been working there 6 years, and I had this moment where I just sat there and went, I've worked here 6 years. I could have gone to high school all over again and had all those experiences over again, plus 2 years, and be, like, halfway through another high school. Like, and I kind of, like, sat there and, like, was like, that's horrifying. Like, I hate this job, and I've been here 6 years, and that's when I quit. And I got a much better job. But that's the thing, like, right now, too, like, I have a really good job, and I have the ability to kind of, like, split my day in half, Monday through Friday, half my day animation, half my day, and it's not exactly half and half, I'm working on it, because sometimes I just, like, I have to, like, take time to, like, if I get depressed or something, I have to take time to, like, and I'm really good when I get depressed where I don't, like, totally go, everything's over. Like, I'm really good at being like, okay, why am I feeling this way and how do I get out of it? That's kind of like my attitude every time. But it does affect me still, like where I don't sleep well, so I end up sleeping in. I mean, luckily I'm not having that right now, but no problem. Hope no one died. Holy crap. So lots of pots and pans falling. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so I kind of have it right now where I feel pretty good about my life in general. Um, it is kind of frustrating because I do have those moments where I'm just like, I'd really like to, like I would like to do something with like Nickelodeon or like Cartoon Network or something. So I have that frustration where like on one hand it's like, oh, that'd be really cool to do, to be able to be like, ah, yeah, I did something for them. But then on the other hand too, like I'm also realizing like the industry's changing. Like the old formulas that like I guess that's the frustrating thing I realized too, like the Cartoon Network that like 12-year-old me wanted to work for doesn't exist. It's totally different now, you know. The Pixar I dreamed of working at is totally different. And you have these you have technology more widely available, more affordable, and you have all these like animators who basically worked at places like Disney and got like um fed up just like, always having to follow some executives creative orders, like that kind of thing. uh and they're just kind of like starting their own studios and doing their own things, and they're actually being pretty successful. And it's kind of getting to a point too where I thought about it a while ago. I'm like, what is even the point of like having a brick and mortar studio anymore? Like at this point, most artists have their own setup. So, uh, like it doesn't make much like back in the day. It probably was because like not everyone's gonna like set up an animation desk at their house. Um, and then like when technology started coming into it, like a lot of people, there's no way they were just gonna afford that on their own and like be like, okay, but like most people now, they have it. They have all the stuff they need to make cartoons like at their house. It's like all the same stuff they use at work. Like if they work at Disney or something like that. So I'm almost getting to the point like, because when you have a building, you have to pay custodians, you gotta pay for maintenance. Yeah, like Bakshi, I listened to him more. Like, I'm not super. Like, I haven't watched most of his films, I'm gonna be honest, but I love him anyway. I just love him as an animator so much because it's like, not because of necessarily like what he makes, just because of like his attitude towards animation is exactly what I think like people need sometimes. Because he often says, he's like, to people, Disney's God, and Disney said you can't do it this way, and they said, yes, God, that's the only, you're right, we can't do it without that. And back she's like, I made a whole career off of every time they told me I can't do something one way, doing it exactly that way. And he's sitting there too, like he has whenever I'm feeling down about like being like, kind of wish I could like do something for Disney or like Cartoon Network or something. Whenever I'm feeling that way, there's a video of him at like San Diego Comic-Con, and he's just talking about that. He's like, you guys have the world in your hands. He's like, when I started, like you'd have to pay like ink and paint, and they'd have to be painted on cells, and then you'd have to send it to a camera department, and then you'd have you have to pay for the film. He's all like, you have it all right in a box now. He's like, you can do it all yourself. He's like, and he didn't Coney Island, his short, with like I think 4 people, and he's all like, "You got the world in your hands, and what do you do with it? Nothing." Because like he talks about like he had a very humorous line about he's like, "Cause y'all want to wear nice pants." He's like, I don't know what it is, but he's like, every time I see a guy that I know that's like working out like working at a studio, he's got nice pants. He's like, but he's doing like Shrek 4 or 5 shit. And those were his words too, and that made me laugh. I'm like, oh my god. But it's kind of, it is kind of weird because like it even gets me, and like you almost feel like, well, if you don't have a name, you're nothing. And it's like, actually that's far from the truth. And then the other thing I like to think of is Winsor McCay, because Winsor McCay did Gertie the Dinosaur. This was like 1911, I want to say. I might be wrong. But he basically pioneered drawing for animation. And actually, to like, Disney always gets all like, oh, Disney was the pioneers of. No, they weren't. Like, Winsor McCay figured out character animation decades before Disney finally was like, oh, that's how you do it. At this point, I don't even know if I'm animating right, because I'm just ranting about animation itself. But then, so Winsor McCay was the first one to be like, hey, what if I, like, drew a bunch of sequential drawings? Because, like, I've seen this animation thing, this stop motion thing people are doing, because stop motion was first. Just in case anyone's wondering, stop motion was first. And before stop motion, there was some ancient Egyptian wall art that you rode a chariot by it, and you looked over, and then it looked like the gods were moving. It was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, Winsor McCay was like, what if I, instead of, like, moving objects, like, I just did the drawings? And that's what Gertie the Dinosaur was. And, oh my god, it's actually working. It actually looks kind of, like, cute. It's, like, it's mechanical, but it's kind of cute. Like, I could make it. I see potential in this. I'm getting it. I just gotta keep practicing drawing legs, too, because I don't know why I skipped drawing legs in high school, but I don't know. I was always just focused on, like, drawing torsos and faces, and I was just like, who needs legs? And now I'm like, I hate life. I need legs. But, I'm going off on several tangents, but that's okay. I think at least I'm finally talking. I'm like, okay, I got something to talk about. So Winsor McCay, they, I skipped leg day. But Winsor McCay, basically pioneered it, and he understood, like, character animation, like, inherently. Like, he just knew how to do it. And, it was a few years later when people started, like, being like, oh, hey, that's a cool idea. It's the 1900s. We don't have internet. Let's do something with that. That they started making their own cartoons. And so you started getting early things, like, like even early Disney, Felix things, that kind of stuff. And they showed Winsor McCay, I don't know which one in particular, but they basically showed him one of those ones where they're all just, like, wiggling, and it's like, whoop, and there's no sound yet, so they don't say whoop. But you know what I mean? They showed him some of that stuff, and he sat there, and after they showed it to him, he just was like, you've ruined my beautiful art form. And he just freaking walked out, and I'm like, damn, that's a little harsh. But then I kind of thought about it, and I realized that that's the problem right there, and that's kind of the one thing, like, him and Bakshi have in common, which is kind of a weird comparison. But, like, Bakshi and Winsor McCay understood that, animation's an art form, that people can do. But the studios tend to have this, like, way of making you feel like you can't do this without us now. And they've done this by, like, I love watching these things, but all those documentaries they make about, like, early Disney and his struggles and things like that, or, like, even one of my favorites is Waking Sleeping Beauty. They built a legacy up around themselves as the art form itself, but they're not. They want to make you believe that, like, the early 1920s Disney cartoons were, like, that was revolutionary, and it's like, no, that wasn't revolutionary. Freaking Gertie the Dinosaur was definitely revolutionary. The Sinking of the Carpathia was incredible, and it definitely wasn't that wasn't a goofy cartoon for kids or anything. That was legitimately Winsor McKay being so incensed by the Carpathia being wasn't this guy in the stream last time? Thank you for the criticism. I will take it to heart. It is in fact a hideous painting because it is indeed not a painting at all. But anyways, okay, so, Winsor McKay did, like, Gertie the Dinosaur, Sinking of the Carpathia, like, and if you look at those, like, he didn't have a lot of the stuff that you would even think a traditional animator has, like, he didn't quite have yet. He didn't have cells, he didn't have a light box, as far as I know. Like, if I remember correctly, that didn't come till later. Yeah, McKay is honestly incredible. He was doing all of his animation. I am destroying the art industry. I'm gonna burn it all to the ground. But anyways. Yeah, so, like, he just knew, like, that there was something to this animation thing, and that it could really be used to tell, like, really in-depth stories, like, and then all of a sudden he just sees, like, the early 1900s cartoons, and it's all like, like, just, like, people slamming, like, pans in each other's face and things like that. And it's not well drawn either, because, like, a lot of the early animators couldn't draw that well. And then his statement makes a little more sense to me. But sometimes it's really easy to forget that, it's like, you don't need Disney. You don't. In fact, like, most people who work for, like, Disney and stuff, like, they usually don't plan on staying there their whole lives. Like, it's kind of like this weird thing about it that no one seems to talk about. That, like, because, like, I always was just under the impression that basically, you get a job at Disney and you work there your whole life, and then that's it. That's what you're like. I worked for Disney. I made it to the top. I'm done. But it's not really the case. And most Disney animators, like, end up leaving because you don't really get to, like, work on your own personal stuff. There was the infamous contract back in the day that anything you made while you worked for Disney was their property. I do believe that since that policy has gone away, I think, but just because it was criticized terribly, as it should be. But yeah, as far as I know, um, it's like Disney's not the end all be all, and you don't really have to be. You don't have to work for them to be an animator. You just can work on actually learning how to animate itself. But I do think, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I do think that Disney goes a lot out of its way to make documentaries about its history, not only to make money, but also to kind of cement this idea that without them you're nothing. And that's why I thank God for Ralph Bakshi, because, you know, he sat there and he basically was like, yeah, they told me if I didn't do it this way, it wouldn't work, and I did it that way anyway. And guess what? They were wrong. I was right. Now I just sit around and paint paintings because, I already showed you all how it's done. Now get off your butt and do it. I'm like, I'm trying, Bakshi. Really trying. I think I'll get it one day, honestly. Probably one day soon, on account of the fact that I am practicing fairly regularly now. And I am determined. But, even I forget a lot that you don't need Disney. Animation is so. Because I think, like, you're like a kid and you think, oh, I want to make cartoons. And it's just such a very innocent thing, like when you're a kid. Because you love watching them and you want to be able to make them. And I have like a really kind of sappy, deep reason why I really love making cartoons. But, you kind of get to the point where you just, like, it's so shoved down your throat, especially when you're trying to learn animation, because one of the main animation books is Illusion of Life by Frank and Ollie. And of course, they're two of the greatest Disney animators that ever existed. And I love them too, but they were writing a book about their experiences in their life at their work at Disney. And now, people just take it as gospel and they're like, well, they were Disney animators, so if you want to be an animator, you got to get into Disney. And I'm like, no, not anymore. Maybe once, or like maybe once upon a time. But that's the thing. Like when I started, like at 12, we're going like, I want to be an animator, and not knowing anything. There was no like. If I don't get into Disney, I'm nothing. That didn't come until probably around like 16ish. Like right when you get into that self-serious teenage mode, right about then, that's when it starts to happen. And it's kind of interesting because like you kind of end up losing some of that the natural magic of animation, because animation's just kind of beautiful. It's just, there's something amazing about the fact that you can make all these still drawings and you can make them move. And every time I watch like an episode of Miraculous Ladybug, I'm like screaming. And that's CG's, but to me, honestly, I'm not a snob where I'm like, hand drawn's the only animation. Hand drawn's just what I've come to like, personally. But I do love Miraculous Ladybug. And I'm able to do this without thinking now. I think I'm getting this. Heck yeah. Learning. I'm really excited. And I'm also talking about animation, so I'm really pumped. I've actually kind of made it a rule not to start talking about animation before bed because I don't sleep otherwise. I'm like, no, wait, hold on. One more thing, because I've done too much research on animation history and stuff. But anyways, but like that's the thing. Like when you first love cartoons and you think about wanting to do cartoons, there's that very innocent like, I just want to make cartoons to make people happy and laugh, to make me laugh, because, or like, you know, to make me feel whatever, you know. And then somewhere along the lines you get self-serious and you're like, okay, but real talk, we gotta take this really seriously now. Absolutely, this is no joke. This is cartoons we're talking about. Cartoons are not a joke. How dare you? Yeah. And it's really funny when you say it like that too, because like it's like something only in that teenage state of mind you could take so seriously. Oh god, I did, and I was like, my logic in high school was get good at drawing and then I'll learn how to animate when I get to college. And well, I didn't get to go to college, so I kind of kicked myself for that. Of course, I did go to college like last year and I hated it, so I'm still thinking about going for my generals just because I think I'd like to have a college degree. But at the same time, I'm like, do I? I don't know, because I turned into a kind of a scary person during that time. My friends are like, we're worried about you. Oh my god, that works great. Okay. Okay. That one's the best one pass so far. Okay. Yes. I mean, I know it doesn't really look too different, but it's, yes. I've almost gotten this guy to walk across the screen. Eye of the Tiger. We're gonna save that. Okay. And I'm still talking about it. I'm sorry I'm like getting off topic. It's just when you're focusing on animating the chat and trying to keep a cohesive narrative, something's gonna fall apart, and it's gonna be the cohesive narrative because I refuse to let the animation fall apart. But yeah, I think it is really easy to forget that animation. I mean, I think the other thing too that I came to realize later, because right when I got out of high school and I found out I wasn't going to college, I was thinking like, well, now I'll never be an animator. Because how can I be without Disney, without Cartoon Network, without, you know, and like I wasn't totally like, I wasn't 100% like, how will I ever be like, because I kind of had that weird duality in my head where part of me was like, it's never gonna happen now, and then part of my brain going like, bitch, we come this far. Don't you dare. You stop talking like that. I'm not gonna hear it. There's like two parts. There's always like two parts of my brain like that, where it's just like, just one's like, face reality, it's not happening. And then the other part's like, only if you let it not happen. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't think this is gonna work, but we'll keep practicing drawing for some reason. You know, it's kind of that weird logic. But, and focusing on cartoons for a minute. Okay. And, but that, I did, that's actually when I did start, reading a lot about animation more so. Like, I had already read the Animator Survival Kit, but I started extending my reach. That is, no. Okay. Let's try. I started extending it, and I found out about Frank and Ollie's book second. And so I read that, and it's got a lot of knowledge, and a lot of these books do have a lot of knowledge, but, because Frank and Ollie, they were writing a book about their life and their work at Disney. Of course, everything in there is basically like, Disney was the place to be, even though, like, Warner Brothers, I feel like in a lot of ways, Warner Brothers actually kind of surpassed a lot of early Disney stuff. Because, like, when I was a kid watching cartoons too, like, I watched a lot of Disney films, and they were pretty and whatever, but like when I watch the Looney Tunes, like I still kind of like have moments where like certain lines of dialogue come back, and I'm just like, it hits me in the nostalgia gland, I guess, and like I can remember exactly how the line is delivered, and it's just so funny, like and I'm like, that is so like well drawn and done, that I'm like, yeah, like they were doing a lot of that pretty stuff at Disney, but like were they really like memorable? Like, do you really think about like, oh man, do you remember how beautiful that one like special effect looked? Or are you like, oh my god, do you remember when like uh they're doing the rabbit season, duck season thing? I mean, that's classic right there. Um and I had like a Looney Tunes VHS that I adored, and I remember like for whatever reason my sister was just like a stick in the mud, and every time I'm like, could we watch this, she'd be like, no, and I had to like, the only time I got to watch it was when I was like, hey, well, one, when I got my own VCR, which was later, and then also my dad loved Looney Tunes, and I'm like, can we watch this? And my dad's like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, yay. I don't know if that's right. Let's see. Anyways, but it's really easy. I think what I'm trying to get at in all this rambling, which is very incoherent, is that you don't need a studio to animate. You don't even really need a computer to animate. You just need paper and a pencil, or an object and a camera, and like you can pretty much do it. And you should, especially if you really want to do it, because you're gonna need the practice, trust me. That's why I'm animating a ball now, because I didn't do this in high school like I should have. I do like this like really clunky walk though. And yeah, what I'm hoping to do with this too is like, this is like stick figure principle basically to me, because I'm like, if I can draw like a leg that's like a stick with a foot, I can start translating that into a full drawing. Maybe not immediately, but probably within the next couple months is the idea. And the other idea is walks are everything. This is like the form work of kung fu, but for animation. Like if you can control a walk, and you're like, I know exactly how I'm gonna make him walk, and he's gonna walk that way, then you're golden. But let me think. I do kind of wish there was just like a way to like kind of disconnect, because like the other thing too I've noticed is a lot of animators who worked for studios, once they've worked at a studio, they kind of like the glisten goes away, and that's their words. They're like, eventually you kind of just come to the realization that, at first you think you need the studio, and then you realize, no, the studio needs me, and that you don't necessarily need the studio. And then that's usually when they like break off and they start doing their own projects, and that's usually when they they really make their best work. But I feel like there is kind of a mentality of like, well, if I don't get in, then there's still like that, like that's a bar to hit or something like that. And now that I know a bit more about like what working in a studio is like, because I did work at a local studio as an intern, and what I learned is local independent studios are really hard to run. And I don't like that circle. If you're gonna work in a studio, you better not have like, because if you're gonna be like an animator, you are strictly going to animate. You're not gonna have any input on the story, probably. Almost none. And this is talking like bigger studios too, because like you have your story department, you know, and everyone's got their little ego too, which I have to be 100% honest, I just never really had an ego, and I'm not like bragging on that. It's just like I never really did. I'm just like I just want to draw. That's all. What's going on with stupid flashback? There we go. Okay, I got it. I know what it's doing. It's so stupid. Okay. You know, like if you want to, like if you just want to animate and nothing else, like you'd probably be fine in the studio. But like I know I personally would have kind of an issue when the writing gets bad. And it does. Like I recently kind of like the YouTube, for whatever reason, recommended me some like old Star Versus theories from before the fourth season premiere. And like it just kills me how like these fan theories were like way more interesting than what actually ended up happening. Not that season 4 was all bad, but like season 3 kind of like threw everything in the air and was kind of meh, and I was kind of like, okay, where are they going with this? Maybe it could get interesting. And I still honestly feel super disappointed by the entirety. I almost feel like it would be better if it had just ended at season 2. Like, and we just never knew. Like, I mean, we would have been mad, yeah, but like that right after that point, that show was like, you could kind of feel where things were going, and you were like, oh my god, this is getting intense. But yeah, look at that ball stretch. Probably shouldn't say ball stretch, but anyways, I just like the way the toe's moving, or heel is moving. Anyway, like I know, like if I had been like working on the show, I would have been sitting there going like, okay, you set this up, you set that up, and you set this up, and you never pay him off. Like, why? Like, I mean, I think most people agree, like, I'm not against the Tom Star shipping, but like, if you're gonna do it, own it. Like, I'm just so, that irritated me because I'm like, okay, if you're gonna ship Tom Star, ship Tom Star. Don't pull this whole like, oh, I'm gonna go back with Tom because whatever, Marco, blah blah blah. Like, this, the shipping plot was bad. The Muni plot was convoluted, and then the like, just everything was kind of like weird. Like season 1 to 2, it was like it knew what it was. It was like Star doesn't understand Earth, and she kind of messes things up. And, you know, and Marco has to be like, oh, we don't do that on Earth. Yeah. Okay, it made sense. And then there was, like, little shipping, and then there was, like, the bit of magic. It was, like, really cohesive. And to me, like, cohesion doesn't necessarily, like, I mean, because you can do stories out of order, but, like, at least don't like make it interesting. And that was the problem, is like once the third season hit, it felt like they were just it felt like they wanted to turn it into an anime, and like they were acting like they were gonna have like 30 seasons, which if anyone knows Disney, it's like, no, you get 4 seasons tops, pretty much, unless you're like Phineas and Ferb. For whatever reason, if you're Phineas and Ferb, you can get more, but yeah, I... How many frames? 3? Okay. I know if I was working at a studio and, like, something like that was going on, I'd be like, this is stupid. And they'd probably just be like, well... Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I hate is, like, there is a, like, there's, like, a system where it's, like... And Bakshi talked about this, too. That it's been around a long time. It's not new. He's like, they were telling me you gotta wait 10 years to be an animator, and he's all like, screw that, I can animate now. And I love his whole story, because, basically, he knew the time when all the animators went out to lunch, and, hello, Donald Trump. Yeah, so, Bakshi knew the time when all the animators, like, took their lunch, so he's like, I made sure, like, he's like, I knew what I was doing. You know, like, I could animate whatever they asked me. I knew I could do it. He's like, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't have done this. You know? And so he's like, I knew I could animate, and they're telling me I'm gonna have to wait 10 years, and I'm all like, nah. So, all the animators went out to lunch, and he took his desk all the way from the basement and just carried it upstairs and set it down in the animation area. And he's just grabbed a scene that hadn't been taken yet and started working on it, and apparently no one noticed for a week. That was my favorite part of the story. I'm like, he just moves up to animation. He's like, yep. And then a week later, they're all like, hey, Ralph, what are you doing here? And he's all like, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm animating. And they're like, but you're down in, like, the in-between department. He's like, I've been up here for, like, a week. And there was, like, a huge argument about it. And luckily there was this one animator, and I can't remember his name, but he knew Ralph could animate. And he's all like, the guy's been up here a week. He's been doing a good job. And they're like, you can't do this. This is ridiculous. And so, they're basically like, the gall of like, this in-betweener to just come up here and just put his desk up here and be done and be like, I'm an animator. They were just like, oh, I say, how unorthodox. But anyways, so they were like, they didn't know what to do, and they were trying to get him to go back downstairs, and he's like, I am not going back downstairs. He's like, you're gonna have to fire me if you're gonna make me go back downstairs. And they're all like, what is this guy doing? And so they kind of like had a like, there's basically just stupidity going, like, well, can he animate? And he's like, yeah, he can animate. He's been animating. The scenes look great. And because at that time, I guess, like, you had to wait 10 years to get up there. You had to. And the stupid thing was, and Ralph said this too, he's like, a lot of the guys down where I was working could animate, but, you know, they just were, like, so stuck in this hierarchy, like, this stupid system of, you gotta wait 10 years before you're an animator. He's like, alright, hold on. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, so he's like, a lot of those guys could animate and were great at it, and they wouldn't bring them upstairs. And the thing was, too, they were short on, like, animators upstairs, and they were always trying to get people to come in. They couldn't get people to come in. And he's like, but then you have all these perfectly talented people downstairs who are, are just itching to animate and they're not using them. And after Bakshi did that, they did let him stay up there and be an animator. And then they started going like, hey, we're short animators. Why don't we just move some people from downstairs up here? And he basically, weirdly, in his defiance, made the whole situation better for everyone, because suddenly these people who would have been downstairs for the next 10 years waiting for their brilliant chance to animate got to move upstairs and got to move up in general. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes me love Ralph Bakshi. I'm like, freaking mad lad right there. He's just like, he understands animation and what it's about. Whether you like his animation personally or not, like, he just understands what's up. He knows. I'm really seeing a change go on, though, where, like, I'm honestly wondering if there will be an actual, like, animation studio setup anymore, because a lot of people are doing what's called virtual studios. And that was something I was rambling about earlier, but I can't keep anything cohesive, apparently. A lot of people, a lot of animators, artists have their own setup at home. And it have all the programs they need. And keeping a building up so that a bunch of artists can come in and draw in it every day costs like a lot of money. So a lot of places aren't doing the traditional they're not doing a traditional building studio. They're doing virtual studios where basically they connect all the files on a cloud network and everyone works from their home. I personally think this is like a really good move in the industry, because also touching back on what I talked about earlier, like where, you have these people working in the studio every day, like, how many hours, because it's not a set 9 to 5 job. Now, like, people are working from home, so, like, yeah, they're still having to work, like, a lot of hours, but they're home. So, like, if their kid's sick, they can, like, they're already home. So they can just kind of, like, get up, check on the kid every once in a while, which would be an awkward kind of thing to do at a studio. But, like, if you know how to get your work done, then you could definitely do it easy. No problem. And to me, I'm like, not only does this sound like a better deal for the artists, but it's also like a better deal for like independent creators, because I mean, one thing I've heard people say negative against virtual studios is they're like, well, some people can't afford their programs. I'm like, okay, well, the beauty of a virtual studio is that, like, if you get hired by a company, they could be like, okay, and we're gonna purchase like TV paint for you, So it's like, it's not like that seems like almost a non-argument to me. It's kind of dumb, like, oh yeah, virtual studios can't work because not everyone can afford the programs. It's like, okay, well, if you get hired to work on a project and you don't have the program, what they could do too is, like, if they don't have like the money, they could just be like, you have to pay us back for the program. Like, there's always a way around it, and then, like, it could work. It'd be fine. The programs are expensive, but they're not ungodly expensive. Like, I you can afford them. Even if you have just like a minimum wage job, you could easily save up money and get a computer, TV Paint, or all the Adobe products. You can get both of those relatively, like, if you're very serious about this and you just save your money and that's what you spend it on, then yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna talk. I can't control it when people are like, oh, but I want to buy this dumb vinyl figure first. It's like, well, okay. But I mean, like, if you really want to do this, it is getting to a point where it's very, very within range to be able to buy this stuff. And, no, I don't want it to go back. What am I doing? No. I want it to go forward. Drag the toe. Drag the toe. I don't know what's happening to my brain. I'm going nuts. The animation is settling in. Okay, so anyway, I mean, everything's affordable, relatively. Maybe not to, like, younger people who can't work yet. But, like, once you get, like, a working age, you can easily save up for this stuff, even on crap money. And then you have the program. Like, all you need to do is, like, learn it, know how it works, and if you have, like, a bunch of friends who have the same program, you can make, like, a Google account with, like, shared files, and you can make an entire production pipeline, and you can have one friend do the animation, one friend do the color, and it's like, and a lot of people are doing this already, but, like, I'm not saying, like, that the brick and mortar studio setup is going to die or that it doesn't have benefits, because one thing, an actual negative of a virtual studio I've heard is, like, you don't get to really talk to your coworkers, face to face, but I'm like, there's also kind of ways around that too. You could have, like, I mean, you could even do something like in Discord, have, like, a Discord meeting, or you could have, like, a yearly meetup or something, like, where everyone flies out to see each other, which would be kind of cool. But I just feel like that's more cost effective, and it's actually just, like, it's a better overall, I think, for just people. Maybe I'm 100% wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But you know what? I'm just I'm just like everyone else on the internet. I have an opinion, and it's probably correct for some people, not for others. Ugh. Suddenly I'm not liking my circles. But, I think the virtual studio setup is a really good idea. And it allows you to work with people all over the place, too. Like, I have a friend who does animation, who is sadly not able to animate at the moment because college sucks. And it's like, he lives far away, and I can just be like, hey, send this file over to him, and we've done a collab before. So I'm like, if we can do that, and we're just two dorks on the internet, like, imagine what you could do on a large scale with that kind of stuff. And you don't have to pay for a building or anything, and I think it's better. I'm also getting, like, tired. I'm gonna drink some, like, actual water. I think this has been my quietest, most whatever live stream so far. Like, I guess this is my problem too, when people are always like, do more live streams. I'm like, I have to practice, and this is basically, this is my practice, like, and it's not necessarily, like, the most entertaining thing to watch. And I kind of know that, but I'm like, okay, you want a live stream? You want a live stream? Sure. I gotta keep working on being a better animator, but why not? Why not? I'll do one. Cause, I mean, Glenn Keane, who is definitely, he's a Disney animator. As I dissed Disney for like, what, like an hour and a half. He's one of my absolute favorite animators of all time. And he likes to share his knowledge of animation too. But he said himself, he's like, you know, I have these moments where I really want to share, and then I have these moments where I just like really I need to like explore and learn new things. And he's like, and I have to like, he's like, and I have to go do that. And I feel exactly the same way. Like, sometimes I'm like, yes, I'm on fire. Who wants requests? You know, like, what do you want? I can draw it. I don't care. You know, sometimes I'm like that, and then sometimes I'm like, I really have to do some stuff. I have to practice. I have to get better. I know I have to get better. Actually, I'm gonna make him from here just sit down. We're gonna change it up a notch. No, that's not the right saying. Oh well, change it up a notch. Now it is. Let's change it up a notch. Even though he's sitting down. Don't question it. Yeah, maybe actually, you know what? We're gonna have him bring his leg down. Get out of my way. I gotta figure out how to stop that from happening. Driving me nuts. Try not to say anything about the whole live stream, but that is driving me crazy. Stupid Google Chrome and OBS getting in my way. You can almost like see me not understanding how legs work. You can almost see it. I don't like that little lump on his ankle. But, nah, that'll do. I kind of feel bad for anyone who watches the rewatch of this, because it's going to be like just rambling. Just rambling. But you know what? You get what you pay for. Gonna have to add more frames. Oh no. It's okay. He is now gonna bend his legs. Doopy doop. That doesn't look right. Nope. I don't know how legs work. Okay. Oh wait, duh, that's why. I forgot to move the pivot point down. Whew. Yeah, I'm gonna say this too, like, This is why it kind of drives me nuts when I'm like, when I say I'm not in the mood for a live stream, please don't bug me, and then people bug me because I'm like, I have to be drawing, checking the chat, talking, like stuff going on in the background in my house. I'm like, it's very ADD, and I'm like, I gotta have 3 different focuses. I'm like, oh my god, no. It is almost time for me to wrap up here, though. Almost. I would like to at least. Oh, gotta love Flash. Gotta love Flash with those freaking. I love it when Flash does a little gloob. And by love, I mean I freaking despise it with all of my being. Okay. Gotta buy TV paint. Now it looks like he's taking a dump. It's alright. I mean, I guess sitting down and this is the same motion, isn't it? Okay, I think that'll work. Let's see. We'll put the sitting on a hold for a bit so it doesn't just flicker past. Maybe not the best sit in the world, but I kind of like it. This little slide. My creation. Frickin' a milk call. Who? Never heard of him. Don't even know. Like, have you seen, like, Captain's Ball walking animation? It's the greatest thing. I do kind of want to. I kind of want to change this last frame a little bit. Does it look smaller at the end? Maybe it's just me. Kind of looks like he shrank. Did I do the thing? Yeah, it does kind of shrink. Let's redo the whole thing. Thanks, DZ. Is better than Disney because it's got soul. Disney ain't got no soul. You know, I'm gonna make him fall back a little bit. I'm shrinking it again. I knew it. I could probably time it better, but it looks alright. He's just like, meh. Meh. I mean, I have a few minutes. I probably could, but I don't know if I want to. Let's see. I can probably time it out better. I could time it out better, but I don't really want to. My brain is feeling pretty done, honestly. Because, like, I think everyone knows what it's like when, like, you've been, like, trying to learn something, whether it's in school or just, like, on your own, and you hit that point where your brain is just saturated because you've been practicing or studying or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like looking at this going, I think I'm done. I think this is what we got today. This beautiful spherical walk. My little walkie dude. Yeah, I think my brain's pretty much done. I'm just enjoying watching my creation. And then the last bunch of the stream is just me just sitting here staring and watching my animation. And we're about like 9 minutes away from the 2-hour mark. So, I think I'm gonna call that good for today. It's just my chill animation practice live stream. I think I'm good. Unless anyone has any questions about my rambling. I don't think so, though. Yeah, thanks for showing up, DZ. It would have been very, very quiet without you. I think Ho Lord skipped out just because I think he's mad at me, but whatever. He'll forgive me eventually. And yeah, I'm good. And I'm gonna hit the stop button once I figure out how my mouse works. Alright, see y'all later.